Hey guys, and welcome back to another Maltcast video. I figured I'd throw a quick video together for you guys because I'm putting together some stuff for my new brew system, and I figured I'd put together a little video just to show you guys how to solder, to put copper pipe together. It's a useful skill to have if you're building a manifold. There's lots of different things in your brew setup that you might need to solder together. So I figured I'd just do a quick little video to show you guys how it's done. It's actually pretty easy. It's a good skill to learn. Picking this up, I've actually been able to do some plumbing in my bathrooms and stuff, so a good skill to have. Yeah, I don't claim to be an expert, but it seems to do well enough that I've never had a problem with like a weld bursting or anything like that. So anyway, let's get into it. I'll show you guys how to solder, and by the end of this video you should feel pretty comfortable doing it. Alright, so let's first talk about the parts that you're going to need. You're obviously going to need a torch. This is probably the most important part. The nice thing is, although these are a little expensive, they're going to last you pretty long. I've had the same bottle for a couple of years now. It's just a benzomatic propane little hand torch there. You're also going to need some solder. This is some silver solder. Very important that you get the lead-free stuff. You can see on there that if it's going to focus at all, that is the lead-free solder. We also have flux, again lead-free solder paste, so that's an important thing to have. Other than that, you're going to need some sandpaper. They actually make special sandpaper for copper pipe, and then it's useful to have one of these as well. This is kind of a tool for going inside the pipes. And I'll show you guys what that's for. Also, you might want to have one of these. This is just a pipe cutter. You can see this manifold that I've put together. Looks complicated, but it's actually really easy to do something like this. You buy like these T's and elbow parts, and then basically what you do is you just cut these straight pieces. So, you know, straight piece here, these three long straight pieces. And it's very easy to do that, actually. If you've never used a pipe cutter before, I'll just show you. Basically what you do is you determine where you want the cut to be, and then basically what you do is you just tighten this wheel down here to that location, and once it's nice and secure, you basically just start turning this. If I can get it locked in properly there. So you start turning, and you'll see that you start to get a little groove there. And basically what you do is you turn it a few times, tighten it, keep turning it, tighten it a little bit more, and you just keep doing that, and eventually it'll go through the pipe. And then basically, if you're doing a manifold like this, once you had all the pieces cut, you want to kind of dry fit them, make sure everything goes together, and then you can solder the joints. In the case of my mash tun manifold, I don't solder that because I want to be able to take it apart for cleaning, but this is actually a sparge manifold, and this is only going to have water in it, so I'm not too concerned about being able to clean it or anything. So now that I've showed you guys the parts that you need, let's actually show you how to solder. So the first step, and this is a very important step, is to prepare your surfaces. In this case here, I'm soldering on a 1/2-inch NPT connection. Basically it's going to be connected to a cam lock. So basically you always have an inside and an outside surface. So in this case this is going to be going on here. So what I need to do is prepare the outside of this and the inside of this part. And the way that you do that is just through the tools that I showed you. So for the inside surface, basically you just would take this tool, put it in there, and just give it some turns. And then, so once you've given that enough of a turn, you'll see the inside is quite scratched up. It should look like a brand new penny, and it should be very scratched up. It's especially important if you have an older piece of copper that's got the oxidized layer on it. Very important that you give that a really good sanding, or in that case the steel brush, just to make sure that the oxide layer is completely removed. And then for this one here, basically I'll just Alright, so now that our surfaces are prepared, what we basically want to do is just take our flux And we're gonna usually get a brush like this, or they're just very cheap. They're made for flux. So we want to get some flux on the brush, not a lot. The idea is just to get a very thin coating on the fitting. So you can see you're just putting a little bit all the way around. And again, you don't need a lot as long as you get a nice coating. And then we're going to basically also put it on the inside of the fitting as well. Just a nice thin coating. And then once that's done, we're just going to put the fitting on here. Slide it all the way. And then we get to light our torch. So you're technically not supposed to do this with a lighter, but I do anyways. So you get a nice flame going on your torch there. And then we want to take our solder with the other hand. So we basically have the solder pulled out to a little piece like that. So basically what we want to do is we use the torch, and it's very important that you heat up the fitting. You don't want to like melt the solder. And I've actually had cases where if you burn the flux, it actually is a problem. So you can see I'm just heating kind of where they meet there on the actual fitting. And then what I like to do is just keep touching the solder to the fitting. It's not quite hot enough yet, but if you overheat the fitting, you can sometimes have an issue with the solder being drawn in. Now the interesting thing is once this gets hot enough, the solder is going to be drawn in by what's called capillary action. It almost sucks it right into the joint. You don't even really have to work for it. Okay, there you go. So you see now, so I'm just going to take the torch away, and now the solder is being sucked in there. So you don't have to do too much. If you get too much, you'll see it'll start to bead on the bottom there. But that's it. That's all there is to it. So basically what we did was, once it got up hot enough, where the joint was hot enough to where it would melt the solder, you don't even need the torch anymore. You can just, as you saw there, I pulled it away and I was just touching the solder right to where the two pieces overlapped, and then it actually got sucked into the fitting. Now just, you don't want to burn yourself, that's very hot, but once you let this cool down to room temperature, you'll have a very solid fitting that will last the test of time. I'd encourage you guys to give this a try. It's very easy to do, and if you're doing any kind of plumbing with your brew system, if you're building a counterflow chiller, you need to know how to solder to do that. But it's very, very, very easy skill to learn. So I'll just show you guys the inside of the fitting so you can see how that capillary action works. Unfortunately, as you imagine, the lighting is it's actually quite difficult to see, but if you guys look very carefully, if I can get this in a good enough position, you can see just there's kind of a ring of that silver there, just on the inside edge, kind of right there. That's basically, you can see, goes all the way around. That's actually where the fittings were soldered together. So the cool thing is when the flux melts, it actually works to draw the solder in. So that's basically it. You guys can see just how easy that was. And like I said, if you were doing a system like this, you'd basically cut all your pieces out, you get them dry fit, and then yeah, you just go to town soldering all the joints like I showed you. You prepare them, you put your flux, and then you basically very slowly, well, not so slowly, but you're heating up the joint, touching the solder at the point where the solder starts to melt. You can even pull the torch away and you feed in just enough of the solder. You don't need a lot, and you'll see, like I said, once you start to get too much, it'll start to bead on the bottom. You can see a case there where, like I said, my solder joints are not always the prettiest, but they do work anyway. So there you have it, guys. If you have any questions, as always, you can leave them in the comments below, and we'll see you guys later.